Hey guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, January 22, 2024. There's a lot of 20s in there, but great to have you along. Big weekend, not so much from the boxing point of view, but definitely from combat sports. I watched the UFC yesterday and yeah, got a few thoughts on it. It'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. Carl, the boxing kangaroo, is in the chat. How are you there, mate? And Kyle Champion. How are you guys? I'm sure we'll get a few more as we go. But as I said, always great to have you along. A lot of stuff going on at the moment. But first of all, let's quickly with the. Actually, we'll get. Carl's got a question there. What have we got there? Got in early. Hope all is well. Yes, it is. Thank you, Carl. Hope you had a good weekend too. I have one question. When and who for Tim? Very, very good question, Carl. There's a lot of rumours getting around there at the moment. You would have said, I think I reported on it in the weekly roundup on Friday, that all of a sudden Tim Tszyu in the crossfire of Terence Crawford, or the spies for Terence Crawford, whatever you want to call them, he's in the mix. So, and it does make sense. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, whether on this show or other shows, whatever it might be, where Tim Tszyu, he just seems illogical. So I've just got my my thing there so I don't sweat. Sorry guys, if I do that during the show, it gets a little bit warm here in my little studio. But yeah, so Terence Crawford's taken notice of Tim Tszyu, and as I said, it's not for me unusual or surprising. I think it makes the most sense for Terence Crawford. Really, when you think about it, the welterweight division, bar Errol Spence, is pretty much done, and that fight doesn't look like it's going to happen now, if ever. And I think the fight last year was so comprehensive that I don't really think the need or the desire for a lot of boxing fans out there is to get the rematch. So, especially not straight away. I would think that maybe Spence might have another fight in between, and then maybe they might fight. Who knows? But I just think, since their fight, there hasn't been any call at all for these guys to get together. So, where does Terence Crawford go? I understand he doesn't want to fight Boots Ennis. I get that. A very, very dangerous opponent is Ennis. But in the scheme of things, as far as that worldwide appeal and the casual fans, all that sort of stuff, it's a very, very high risk fight for very low reward. If he beats him, most people say, yeah, well, what do you expect? He's Terence Crawford. Of course, if he loses, all sorts of things fall over. There's the Canelo fight and maybe Tim or whatever it might be. So I get that he said, look, Boots Ennis at the moment is not a big enough name. As a fight fan, I know we all want it. But I understand 100% it completely makes sense to not fight Boots Ennis. So where does he go? He goes up. Canelo looks like he's tied up for the next May. It looks like it's going to be Charlo. I really hope that doesn't happen, but that's what they're saying at the moment. Could be Charlo. I would hope it's Benavidez, but you get the feeling that if it is Charlo or Munguia in May, that it will probably be Benavidez in September. So that sort of takes Crawford off the table for the next 12 months. So what does he do? Well, it makes sense to go up and fight Tim Tszyu. Tim is getting a lot of attention over there. He's got that WBO 154 belt. So why not go up there against a very credible opponent now as Tim? 12 months ago, it might have been a tough sell. Now this is pretty much an easy sell, and I think a lot of fight fans in the States will really sit up, and not just the States, of course, but all over the world, especially here in Australia, will take notice of that fight and really get behind it. So, yeah, as I said, it makes the most sense to me. And then, look, he only tends to fight once a year, so then maybe he can fight that one farewell fight against Canelo after that if he is successful against Tim Tszyu. So, who knows? I've got a couple of comments there. We've got Asbot. How are you there, mate? G'day to you. Peter Nutt. What do you got to say there, Peter? Tszyu needs to stay away from Crawford. Yeah, it's an interesting one. You've got to take the Aussie rose-coloured glasses off, I suppose, and look at it objectively. That's what I try and do. I still think Tim Tszyu gives Terence Crawford trouble, Peter. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to beat him. I don't think we've seen Tim in that really locked down in the trenches type of fight yet, because he's obviously been too good, but he hasn't had that real legacy fight just yet. I know he had Harrison, who was sort of a little bit past it. He had, who was the other one? Ocampo. Well, he's been blitzed before. Mendoza, very, very credible win. But, as I say, styles makes fights. So I actually think, Tim, a very, very credible and, credible world champion. No problems about that. But actually, I do actually think he gives Crawford a fight. But I can understand where obviously people like yourself are saying stay away. But if I was Tim Tszyu, you can always come back. If he doesn't beat Crawford, he can always come again. So there's no golden rule that you have to stay undefeated in this game. So I think Tim Tszyu would welcome that fight with absolute open arms if Terence Crawford came knocking. So, but yeah, I'm going to take my glasses off, and I still think Tim Tszyu gives Crawford all he can handle. What do you guys think? Peter, you obviously don't agree. Crawford will sleep Tim Tszyu. Do you think he'd stop him? It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm not sure. Well, who knows? As I said, I haven't really seen Tim in that real, as I said before, in the trenches type of fight. So who knows? But you don't know you're great or prove you're great until you have an opportunity to prove you're great. And I think Tim Tszyu, like his dad, would, as I said, give Crawford all he can handle. Carl, what do you say about it, mate? Amazing what 12 months in boxing does against Terrell Gaucher. People said hype job. Yeah, they did. Yeah, next minute, Tony, Carlos, and Brian get the soul taken, and now he's on everyone's list. Yeah, it's amazing how it all comes about. And you're right, Carl. 12 months ago, he got stopped. He got knocked down in the first round against Gaucher, and a lot of people, I'm assuming a lot of Australians went, "Oh, here we go, another Aussie goes overseas, and this is what happens." But I thought he got up and pretty much won every round after that, which is what a champion does. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I would love to see it. I really would. I think. I'll say it again. Tim Tszyu gives Crawford all he can handle. I would have to really have a good think about whether he can beat him. But as I said, Peter, it was that said he's got no chance and will get slept by Crawford. As I said, you don't know you can't prove you're great until given an opportunity. And I just think Tim's that type of guy who would really rise to the occasion and take the opportunity by the scruff of the neck. But we'll see. Asbot says, I heard about Tim and Crawford possibility. Good fight, but heard Crawford still wants Canelo. Stupid fight. Yeah, look, I'll say it again, even with Crawford, if he even goes to 168, I think he's a good chance of holding his own against Canelo. Canelo is not a big super middleweight. He's only 5'7", maybe 5'8". He's big, but he's not tall. Very solid, but likes to really stop and set before he punches. Really likes to plant those feet before he lets go, and most opponents let him do that. Crawford is, I'm talking about the 147 version here, by the way, slick, he's fast, super skillful. Could he carry the weight up to 168, looking at over 20 pounds? Now, I think maybe there might be catch weights involved, but Canelo, he would see himself as the A side, so he's certainly not going to give Crawford any favours. So many questions in that one, but I think Crawford gives Canelo all he can handle in that one, even at 168. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But look, the thing is, as we're talking about these fights, so the possibility is there that they might happen. I just don't think Canelo is going to want to fight Crawford unless he's emptied out the barrel. And if he's looking at Munguia or Charlo next, I really hope it's not Charlo. That is just an absolute slap in the face to Aussie fight fans. And look, I will say for me, I've always defended Canelo with his choice of opponents. I can see why they're picking the opponents that they are picking. I get it, the way they're going about the business, and I've always supported why he might fight one guy instead of another. But the Charlo fight for me just does not make any sense whatsoever. It's purely a safe fight for Canelo. I know they're going to spin it with the whole brothers' revenge and all that crap. It's the first time I will publicly say that Canelo, you are ducking either Benavidez. I won't say Morel, but definitely Benavidez. I just hope it doesn't happen. I'd rather see him fight Munguia, but Munguia's got a fight coming up this weekend. So whether he backs up in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, whatever it might be, another fighter who fights irregularly. So it's an interesting one, but won't say it's a stupid fight but risky fight all around. But the great fighters like to test themselves. Duran, Pacquiao, Leonard, they all like to test themselves. So Mayweather, of course. So I don't think you can sort of discredit him for doing it, especially if he's 36 years old and just wants one, maybe two more big fights. Who knows? Peter says Tszyu should fight Spence first. Yeah, not a bad one. I wouldn't be against that one either, Peter. And I'm sure, again, Tim would jump at that in 2 seconds flat or 1 second flat. He would want that fight. So whether or not Spence would want that fight is another. I mean, he would see Tim Tszyu as very, very risky. There has been a few words said between the two guys, so whether or not that has some legs to grow and get a bit more momentum in the fight? I don't know, but I'm just not quite sure where Spence is at the moment, Peter. I understand that he would have wanted to fight Crawford because that's a big money fight, and if he lost, he could always retire. But fighting Tim, don't think it's a massive fight or money wise, and obviously high risk. I'm just not sure where he's at. I think he's got some serious issues outside the ring health wise, and I think it's got to be looked at first. But we'll see. Kyle, changing the subject, says officially Jai Opetaia has left England. I did see that in order to find a suitable sparring partner in Australia. Unofficially, he dropped Fury in a sparring match, I believe the latter. Yeah, I did see that, Kyle, that I think he'd done only 5 rounds with Tyson Fury and has left. So, look, I'm a little bit perplexed why Jai would do it in the first place. I'm a bit sort of two sides of the coin here. I would think that Jai would know that Tyson Fury would only be having southpaws at the camp. That just makes sense. Jai would probably think, okay, what a great opportunity to test myself against Tyson Fury, get some great sparring himself. So I was just surprised they didn't sort of work that into his training schedule. I've got another point to get to after this, but just on this version of it, is that Jai would say, okay, well, I'll go over there for a couple of weeks and maybe get 20 to 25 rounds of sparring with Tyson Fury, and then I'm out of there and I'll finish my camp off, whether it be in England or here. I don't think he'd come back to Australia unless they flew some sparring partners in. I would think he would go to the States or England, but that's another story. And he would sort of incorporate the Tyson Fury sparring into his training camp and not just go there. And I'd be really surprised if he went over there and then was suddenly surprised that there's no orthodox sparring partners. He would fully know what's going on because he's Tyson Fury's sparring partner, not the other way around. And as I said, I would think they would incorporate into it, which then brings us to the other version. Did he actually go too good against Tyson Fury? And I'm sure maybe he dropped him, I don't know, but maybe he gave Tyson Fury a little bit too much more or more than what they really wanted from Tyson Fury at this stage. Jai Opetaia maybe put it on him, and they've said to Jai Opetaia, thanks, and how about we call you, you don't call us sort of thing. You see you, go home. That is another version as well. And if you're going to ask me, Kyle, I see you believe the latter. I'm not going to say I believe that he dropped him, although it is possible, but my gut feeling says is that he gave Tyson Fury more than he could handle at this particular stage, and they've said, let's just stop making Tyson look bad. We want to get his confidence up and let him get a bit more proactive or whatever it might be, and they've sent, well, they've not sent him home, but they've said, thanks, Jai, good luck, and see you later. That's my gut feel. Because I said, the whole thing about just sparring 5 rounds and going home because there's no suitable sparring, that just doesn't hold water with me. All right. Carl, he would drop Tyson, said Carl. Back to Tim Tszyu. Peter says Crawford will fight Charlo and come back to Tszyu. Do you think, Peter? I'm assuming you're talking about Jamal, not Jamal, the 154-pound version. I don't know where Charlo's at, Peter, and he only fights once a year or once every 18 months, whatever it might be. Anyway, I just don't. I would think that Crawford hasn't fought. This has gone really quick, by the way. July was when he fought Spence. Now, what is that? 6 months ago. So you would think he would want to fight within, by say March. That would be, 8 months? It might even be April. That's sort of 9 months. That's probably around the mark he would want to be. And I don't think Charlo is going to be ready, or anywhere near ready by that stage. And that's what's intriguing about it. I don't think Charlo is in the conversation yet. I think Crawford is looking solely at Tim Tszyu. What other options are there? There's no one at 154. And there's really no one at 160 when you think about it. So there's only Canelo there. He's 2 divisions away. What is the smarter fight in between that Canelo fight? Maybe there's been some handshake agreement, whatever it might be, that let's fight at the end, either at the end of 2024 or the start of, or some May 2025, which means that Crawford's going to want to fight in between, and who better than Tim Tszyu? As I said, who are the other options? No one at 154. No one who wants to fight at 147. I know we've had Devin Haney and a couple others put up their hand to fight. He doesn't want to do that. And I doubt that will happen anyway. Although, who knows, maybe Devin Haney says, I'm going to go to 147. But I think there's too many big fights for Haney at 140 for him. So I doubt he'll go up. So Crawford, No one at 160 and only Canelo at 168. The only one he's willing to fight. I doubt he would want a piece of David Benavidez. Imagine the size difference. It'd just be ridiculous. So I'm just ticking the boxes here, Peter, and all just points to one man, and that's Tszyu. I reckon we're going to get an announcement. I reckon they're going to fight in late March, mid-April. Just a hunch. Who knows? Carl says Canelo versus Charlo is coming for sure. Yeah, mate. I'm with you, mate. I think you're right. I really just want you to be wrong. Look, I always love getting over to the States once or twice a year for the fights. And one of my favourite weekends is the May fight, the first week of May, which is Cinco de Mayo. I love getting over there. I know they have the September one, which is the other Mexican public holiday, in the second week of September. But Cinco de Mayo is always the first week of May, and I've been there that many times. I love it. It's a real highlight. It's a real party atmosphere. Plenty going on. Vegas is packed. It's a really good time. I don't think I would waste my money going to see Canelo Charlo, Carl, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll just save my money and go to Perth and watch Canelo. Was it Kambosos and Lomachenko instead? I don't know. It's a difficult one. I'm just trying to put my Canelo or Team Canelo hat on. Why are we pushing this fight down the fans' throats? Now, surely they would. I know initially they'd have their whiteboard out and they go, "Oh, geez, we can really push this about the revenge of little brother and." Well, not little brother, the same age. You get what I mean. The revenge of the brother, and we can hype it up. But Jamel's performance was so bad that how are they going to sell this fight to not just the hardcore boxing fans who just see it as an absolute joke, but the casuals? Because you've got to think, the casuals out there will be saying, what's he fighting this guy again for? They're not going to know he's a twin brother. It just makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. I think the pay-per-views would be in the toilet. I think they would struggle to sell seats at the stadium. I know being Cinco de Mayo, being a Mexican holiday, they probably will sell it out. But just because the Mexicans, they love him and they'll be there. But for people traveling from all over the world like I like to do, I'm just not sure I'll be tempted not to even buy it on pay-per-view. Look, I will, because that's what I do. But you know what I mean? Like, I won't be excited by it, put it that way. I'll buy the fight, but normally when you get up fight morning, which here in Australia it's the morning, of course, because it's on about lunchtime, you're pumped, you're ready to go. Here we go. Even yesterday with them, the UFC, I was like, yeah, okay, should be a good day of fights. Not really a UFC man myself, but hey, to Sunday, nothing else going on, so I'll watch UFC. And there's a bit of excitement there. I have no excitement about Canelo Charlo at all. So while I'll get the fight, I'll probably get up and whatever. Okay, that'll be about it. So anyway, what do you guys think of that situation? Kyle says, I know that's what I'm saying. Carla believed. You believe that Fury got dropped. What kind of suitable sparring partner could Jai find here? Yeah, as I said, Kyle, the only thing I could think of is if he comes back to Australia, and I think it's not a bad option, by the way, to base himself here and probably fly in 3 guys. He's making really good money now, so fly in 3 guys or even 2 guys, world class, whether it be from the States or England or wherever it might be. Fly them over here, put them up for 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is. It's money well spent. So you got to think, if he went to the States, he'd be paying all expenses of all his team and everything anyway. So why not, spend an extra, probably cost an extra 50, 60, even $100,000. He's making probably $2 or $3 million. It's chicken feed. It's an investment in your business, which is yourself. So that's what I would probably think, Cole. When you think about it, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. He's sleeping in his own bed. He's in his own environment. He's got his family around him. I know he's very close to his family. So it would be worth the extra money to do that and base yourself here at home rather than going to somewhere overseas. And you talk to some of the overseas guys, or the guys who've been overseas for camps, they hate it. They hate being away from their families. They get a little bit more sore. They get a little bit more tighter. It's just hard. And as I said, they really miss home. A lot of them have kids. So why not just do it at home? I know, actually, Jai, I think he's got a pregnant partner now. So why not do it at home, spend the 100K, bring 2 or 3 guys out here, and it'll be money well spent. So I think that would be the best course of action, Cole. Or best of both worlds. If it's what is there to go? It's the Fury. So it's only a month to go. So really, it's only a 2-week sort of exercise. Not much money. Might cost him 50, not 100. So I think, as I said, it'll be very, very well spent money, I think. We'll keep going through the comments there. Peter, doubling down. Crawford is levels above Tim. Well, there's only one way to find out, Peter, and that's where if they get in centre ring and face off. I totally get where you're coming from. I understand your opinion. I'm not saying I disagree, but I want to find out. I want to see where Tim's at. And I know Tim would want to find out as well in his team. So that Crawford might be levels above Tim, but we're not going to know until they face off. We said the same thing when Jeff Horn fought Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people said the same thing when George Kambosos fought Teofimo Lopez. A lot of people said when Jeff Fennick fought Tszyu Madalison, you sort of get where I'm going. But it happens all the time, and we're not going to know until they're in centre ring. So I'm not going to disagree, but I want to see for myself. And Carl, yes, Tim loves a good scrap. I just get the feeling that Tim is just itching for a fight of this caliber. I just think he wants Crawford. He wants Spence. Who knows? He might want Canelo at some stage. I don't know. I doubt that, but who knows? But I just, as they say in America, he wants the smoke. And you can't blame him. And that's what I like about Tim. He's not like he's going to get his belt and have a couple of safe defenses and pump these opponents up that they're world beaters and they're really not, like a lot of other guys do. He's openly saying, hey, you want to send me a contract for Crawford, Spence, Canelo, whoever, then send it and let's go. And that's what you got to admire about Tim, because he's a bit of a throwback. You look at all the other fighters, some of the elite guys, and it's just a circus. It's a soap opera with back and forth and this social media bullshit. You just got to look at Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero and Tank Davis and all these guys at the moment, even Devin Haney, throw him in there, all the back and forth bullshit. Okay, I don't want to see it. That's what I like about Tim. I admire Tim because it's like he'll have a bit of, maybe a little bit, but it's more so about that mutual respect. Hey, let's just get it on because I want to fight the best. Canelo's the same. All the great fighters have been the same, and that's why I really would like him to get this fight. But all right, we'll keep going down the questions here. Kyle says, Lee and Paro news coming soon. I think it will be Ryan Garcia as a headliner for the Matchroom fight. Oh, geez, how good would that be? The only thing I've got with that, Kyle, I'm assuming you're talking about the Matchroom card in Australia. I, for one, don't think that will happen. I don't think it'll be Ryan Garcia. I just don't think Ryan Garcia, or they'll be able to pay Ryan Garcia enough to come to Australia. And Liam Paro, super talent, but we've got to face facts. He's not a big name in the world of boxing. I'm not talking about us hardcore, especially us Aussies. I'm talking about as a wider boxing community. A lot of people taking notice of Liam, but he's not that, hey, have you seen this Paro guy? You know what I mean? Like I want to see Paro fight him. And Ryan Garcia, I'm not a fan of him as a fighter, but we can't deny the fact that he's I hate to say it, he's a superstar, especially on social media. And I just don't think coming to Australia to fight Liam Paro, unless there's millions and millions of dollars at stake for Ryan Garcia, we can get him here, especially when you've got the Tank Davises out there. I know he's fought him, but there's talk about rematches. You got Rolly Romero, maybe. There's other guys out there that I think Ryan Garcia sees as a lot more profitable than Liam Paro. So you got to remember, it's a business. Not to say it's not going to happen. I hope it does. I really hope it does. From what I've seen of Ryan Garcia, though, he's that typical, it's all about me and look at me and how much money. He's one of those fighters that would rather look good and lose than look bad and win. That's the type of guy I think he is, if that makes sense. So, I don't know. Who knows? Unless maybe there's a world title at stake, a vacant title, or so, I don't know. But the belts are obviously tied up at this stage. So anyway, I might be wrong. Tell us what you guys think. Peter Nutt. Crawford has the best defense in boxing and a killer jab that cut Spence up. Certainly did. He has got the best defense, Peter, and Spence couldn't really lay a glove on him, could he? And I really like the fact that Crawford, like Mayweather, of course, was super defensive, had a great defense on him, but wasn't the most exciting fighter. Crawford has a very, very good defense, obviously a very good offense, but he comes forward, he pushes the fight when he has to. So, yeah, I'm with you, Peter. Great defense, killer jab, killer everything. Just when he's in the zone, Terence Crawford, and he's in the right frame of mind like he was against Spence, I don't think anyone beats him at this stage. But he is 36. and hasn't really been active in the last few years. So you never know. Carl says, I heard Liam Paro versus Richardson Hitchens was in the making. I heard that too, Carl. That makes more sense to me. That makes a lot more sense to me with that fight. As I said, I just don't see Ryan Garcia coming to Australia unless Liam Paro's got a belt. Unless he's got a world title belt, I don't see Ryan Garcia coming to Australia to fight him. There's just not enough money in it. You got to remember, Ryan Garcia would probably want $5-6 million to fight Liam Paro, and I just don't think we've got the money here. A little bit different when Pacquiao came for Horn. Pacquiao was just a global superstar. They could put their hand out for tens of millions of dollars, and they got it. Kambosos with Lomachenko, not a hard sell. Perth would have been falling over themselves to get that fight in Perth. Lomachenko, is a superstar as well. But unfortunately, Ryan Garcia versus Liam Paro doesn't really fit that mould. So I just can't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Kyle says Crawford isn't going to fight Tim yet. I imagine Terence wants him to collect at least 3 more belts before he accepts that fight. I understand what you're saying there, Kyle, but again, what are the other options for Crawford? If Canelo says, nah, I'm not interested, I'm going to fight either Munguia or Charlo, I know it looks like Charlo in May, and then we might fight Briedis in September, it's not going to happen. Not till 2025 anyway. I hope I'm wrong, but even if Canelo says I'll fight Crawford next September, I think you would think that Crawford's still going to want to have a fight because that'll be, 14 months. And at 36 years of age, I just don't think it's wise. So, and from what I've seen and read and heard and everything else, Crawford wants to have a fight before the middle of the year. So Tszyu makes sense. It really does. I get what you're saying. But who else is there for Crawford? If it's not Canelo, who is it? It's not going to be Boots Ennis. Doesn't look like it's going to be Spence. There's only one more fighter out there, if you ask me, and that's got to be Tszyu. Has appeal, has the belt, the WBO belt, even more importantly, 154, be his 4th division. And then maybe after that, if it's still not going to happen, maybe they might even just go to 160, although there's not really much at 160 either. But if you can fight and beat Tszyu next and get that WBO 154-pound belt, then it makes sense that it's a year later that it's Canelo. So it's good to be talking about these big fights, though, isn't it? Rather than, whinging that no big fights are in the pipes, the pipe works, that we've got so many different fights that we're talking about. It's great. Okay, two more belts, yeah. Okay, so what is there? So there's the one, he's got the WBO, of course. Charlo still got the WBC and WBA, is it? And the IBF vacant. Kangaroo, which is Carl, says Crawford gets owned by Canelo. Well, again, I'd love to find out for myself, Carl. I think Crawford gives Canelo all he can handle, even at 168. I think Canelo might be too big in the end, and how's Crawford going to carry the weight? But I would just love to find out what's going to happen, and that would be the beauty of it. Carl says, what's that there? They'll build a Canelo statue in Omaha if they make that fight. It'd be a big fight. Canelo and Crawford, it will be massive. Whether or not they're sort of too far past the peak, who knows. But Asbot says, agree, Tim is a big fight for Crawford. Sorry, I think Tim wins. He's naturally a lot bigger than Terence and still improving. Plus, I think Tim has underestimated technical ability. I'll say it again, Asbot. I just want to find out for myself. I have no idea. What do you say there? So, Tim's naturally bigger. Well, yep, that's a tick for Tim. Skills is improving. Well, that's a tick. And Tim has underestimated technical ability. Well, yeah, another tick. So I'm with you. I just want to see it for myself. How big would that be for Aussie boxing and just world boxing to see a super fight like that? Crawford and Tszyu. Well, I'm not going to call it a super fight. I don't think Tim's sort of got there yet. For us here in Australia, it would definitely be a super fight. But yeah, that's as I said, that just for me is the fight that makes sense. Kyle wants to talk a little bit about the women's boxing. Lynn Sandstrom is fighting in Thailand this Friday, ranked sixth in the WBA. She's coming off a blown knee from last year, but looks ready for another win. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, I didn't actually see that. Fighting in Thailand. Tell me she's at least fighting someone that's alive and kicking, not someone they've picked off the street. I know, with all due respect to Thai fighters, I've just seen it so many times. I know a few Aussies go over there for a bit of a holiday slash fight night over there, and you know, they just beat fighters that, you know, probably shouldn't be in there. So let's hope this is different. A lot of good young kickboxers and Muay Thai over there in Thailand. So let's hope she gets a good fight and comes back and gets back in the rankings. Carl says, where the heck is Jamal Charlo? Hasn't been seen since, what was it, September the 30th, Carl? Has not been seen since. And I would think, I can't remember what he got paid. Let's say he got paid 10 million or 15 million, whatever it was. I'd say he would be living the life with his posse, Carl. So that's what I think of Jamal. And he's probably, he fought at once. He probably was walking around at 200 pounds at the moment. Who knows? He's not coming back anytime soon, I wouldn't have thought. Carl says in jail. Haven't seen that yet, Carl, but you never know. Peter Nutt, Opetaia versus Briedis will be fight of the year. Yes, we've got to talk about that. Number 2 is on the way. Both fighters look in amazing condition, and Jai gets the unanimous decision. I don't think he stops him. Yeah, I think last week we might have been talking about this, and I said I'd be probably surprised if the fight happens. Well, literally, I think it was announced like an hour after I got off air, to be honest, or worst case next morning, whatever it was, but it was pretty soon afterwards. Look, can't wait for this fight. I'm really glad that Jai got that really solid fight years after. He's had a couple of gimmies in his last 2 fights, so I'm really wrapped for him that he's got a live guy this time, or more than live. I mean, Briedis is a very, very dangerous guy. I think you'll see a more probably switched on Briedis this time, but what you're also going to see is a vastly improved Jai Opetaia. And while it'll be a very, very, very tough fight, I'm with you, Peter. I think he gets unanimous decision, but doesn't stop Briedis. I think Briedis hangs in there, digs in. It's a tough, hard fight. Probably just as tough as the last fight, but I think Jai just wins a little bit more comprehensively this time. But he will walk out of that ring very, very sore, I would think. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Peter. Yeah, both fighters look great. I can't believe, is it a month away? It's come around really quick, hasn't it? Although, I will say there has been some murmurings today. Tyson Fury, it might actually go back to the Opetaia thing. Tyson Fury rumblings, I think the WBC have come out and said, or they might know something or we don't as well, that if this fight does fall over, they might consider stripping him. I've heard some other jungle drums beating as well, that who knows, we could get close and Tyson Fury, something happens. I hope I'm wrong, I really do. But maybe that explains the Jai Opetaia situation. Maybe Tyson Fury not in a very good place, physically, mentally, whatever it might be. Jai's give him a touch-up, and maybe they're just assessing whether they actually go on with the fight at all. Who knows? Maybe they've said, get rid of this guy. Let's get Tyson a bit of confidence up against some of these lesser lights and see if we can get him up to peak form in 4 weeks. And who knows, maybe if they can't, maybe he might pull the old hammy in football terms. So I hope I'm wrong. Briedis' inactivity will get him in trouble late. Jai by stoppage all day. Yeah, no, good point there, Carl. Carl says, Jai was hanging on for dear life at the end of the Briedis fight, but Jai is better now. Yeah, well, you can't blame him at the end of that fight. Look, Jai wasn't overly experienced at the time. Of course, he had the broken jaw. You can imagine just what was going through his head. Obviously, fatigue and everything else going on. Briedis would have, I think, known there was something wrong with Jai's jaw in there. He would have known by the blood and obviously the way he was struggling to hold his mouth together. So he would have sort of known. He would have been going for it. He was loading up bombs. So you can't blame Jai for hanging on for dear life. But I just think this time with that champion's mentality coming in, I know it's for the vacant belt, but coming in, let's just say, as the champion, I just think you'll see a whole different mindset and the way he carries himself. And I don't think you'll see that again. I think Jai, as I said, tough, hard fight, bruising fight, but Jai Opetaia, I think, wins 8 rounds to 4, maybe even 9 rounds to 3. Peter Nutt says the spar with Fury does nothing for Jai, and he needs to spar like for like with Briedis. Yeah, good point there, Peter. I watched Briedis training and he looked amazing. Okay, well, there you go. Well, that's some inside sort of knowledge there, Peter. You've seen a bit. I haven't seen any of him in training yet. But look, he wants to avenge that loss. You got to remember, he's a very, very, very credible opponent. Before, Jai's only loss was to Usyk. IBF world champion. He's a very good fighter, quality champion. So it's a tough one for Jai, but I just think I do agree with you there, Peter. Fury probably didn't really do a lot for Briedis. I just maybe Jai just wanted to test himself against Fury, and maybe it's a mutual decision to go home. Who knows? Maybe it was Jai who said, "Nah, this is not suiting my camp. I want to go home." But that to me doesn't make sense because, as I said earlier, you would think that he would know what he's getting into when he went to training camp with sparring Fury. Peter says Opetaia would destroy Fury with his movement. Well, I can understand Fury wanting Opetaia as his sparring partner. It makes perfect sense. Almost mirror-like sort of styles and the way they fight and everything else. So I can understand Fury's point of view, but not so much Opetaia. Kyle, let's switch it up. Jason Moloney versus Rodriguez. This is Emmanuel Rodriguez. Might be set for May. I don't see how that match can't happen unless Rodriguez loses the title. Now, wasn't Rodriguez penciled in to fight the Japanese opponent, Kyle, in his first defence, I think? I might just have a look while we're going there. Boxing Scene always has the rankings. Let's have a look. I'll bring you guys into this as we go. All right. No, I can't. I haven't actually got it in front of me. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so it is. So what are they? Bantamweights. Sorry about that, guys. Normally I've got my webcam on there. I must have don't know what I've done there. But we'll bring it up anyway. So he is fighting. There it is. Ryosuke Nishida. Now, from all accounts, talking to the Oracle of World Boxing, Mike Altamura, he thinks Nishida wipes the floor with Rodriguez. So if they fight, who knows? Maybe it's going to be Nishida and Jason Moloney. I know Jason really wants that fight with Rodriguez. I don't think Rodriguez would want a part of Jason, but you never know. But his mandatory is Ryosuke Nishida. And as I said, Mike Altamura is adamant that Nishida takes that belt. And if that is the case, as I said, maybe we'll see Jason Moloney and Ryosuke Nishida later in the year. Doubt it's going to be May. It's too close. You wouldn't think he would fight again. So I'm thinking for Jason, well, he might have to have that mandatory, which is Raymart Cabello. I don't know where he's at. He's had weight issues and a few other dramas, so I don't know. Interestingly, Ryosuke Nishida is the contender after that for Jason's title. Then it's Jerwan and Sace. Is that it? And Saces is number 3 because Saul Sanchez was a voluntary. Now he was ranked number 7, so you would think that Jason would have to fight a mandatory next, which is either Cabello. Now if Nishida's fighting Rodriguez, he's out, so it's either Cabello or Ansayas. Whatever. There's another one there. Show Ashida after that. So who knows? I don't think it'll be a massive one, Kyle, you wouldn't have thought, or a big money fight, because all the money is obviously going into the main event, and they don't normally pour a hell of a lot of money into the undercard, even if they are world title fights. So I hope I'm wrong. I might have to give him a call when he gets back from Hawaii. Actually, he's back from Hawaii now. See what he's up to, and maybe we can get a little bit of info out of him. Briedis picked Thompson to beat Jai. Well, that shows how much credibility his picking's got, Peter. How could you do that? Actually, he's not the only one, Peter. I think there's a lot of people that were pretty high on Jordan Thompson. But the classic case of let's just hold judgment on these types of fighters before we see him in an against elite competition. I know we're exactly the same here in Australia. These fighters get built up and they go overseas and get pulverised. So I always withhold judgment until we see him at the top level, which is why we've had guys like Sam Goodman and Stevie Spark and, of course, Liam Paro go overseas. Well, Sam Goodman hasn't, but they've brought him over here for him at the top level. So we can go in with a little bit of confidence that we know what they bring to the table. But, yeah, Jordan Thompson to pick Briedis, what are you thinking? Yeah, Carl, Boot Center said he wants the fight. That's with Crawford, but Crawford's the A side. He'll decide whether it happens or not, mate. Mutsy, do you give Liam Wilson a chance against Valdez? Very, very good question, Mutsy. Now, it has been spoken about, I think we talked about it last week, March 29th. Now, I'd be surprised if it's March 29, purely and solely because that's Good Friday. Now, I know in the States they like to do sporting events on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and all this sort of stuff, but to do it on Good Friday, a holy day, although Christmas Day is a holy day, obviously, but I'm not quite sure, but if it is the case, Mutsy, to answer your question, tough fight for Liam. I'll give him a chance. Of course I do. Valdez is definitely on the downward slide of his career, or downward side of his career, of course, but it would be a tough one. I would be more sort of hoping Liam Wilson wins that fight rather than expecting it. But Valdez is there for the taking. So, and as we've said before, you've got to be in it to win it. And I'm actually very complimentary of Liam Wilson that he said, you know what, I'm ranked number, what is he ranked? I think he's ranked, where is he? Where are we? What's that? Lightweight. He's super featherweight, isn't he? All right. So he's ranked number 2 by the WBO. Now, he could quite easily play it safe and just get another fight under his belt, stay number 2. So if Navarrete does go up to lightweight, he'll fight for the vacant belt. Albert Bell is number 1 at the moment, so he could bide his time. So first of all, 100% take your hat off to Liam Wilson for taking the fight. Valdez is ranked number 5, by the way, with the WBO. Can Liam Wilson beat Valdez? Well, yes, he can. But as I said, I'm probably more hoping than expecting. But just wrapped that Liam Wilson's back on the world stage, and I hope he can get the job done. Peter Nutt says Ennis sleeps Haney at 147. Yeah, I think we might be about 12 to 18 months away from Haney going up to 147, Peter. But that could be a real super fight down the track as well. Ennis and Haney, that would be really good. And Haney has always been a bit of a weight bully. I reckon he bulks up to about 165 after the weigh, which is 30 pounds, by the way, which is, 14 kilos or something? That's a lot of weight. So, and I know he's at 140 now, but that's a lot of weight to put on. And at welterweight, he wouldn't be a weight bully at all. So it's an interesting fight, Peter. I think we might talk about that in another 12 months, I reckon. Carl says Liam beats Oscar. He's a gatekeeper now. That's it. Yeah, well, yep, good call there, Carl. Well, he hasn't fought, I don't think, since the Navarrete fight, has he? And he looked pretty ordinary in that. So, yeah, look, I definitely think he can win, no doubt about it. It's just a tough fight. But again, it comes back to, well, it's probably Liam's a little bit different because it's not like we haven't seen him against quality opposition in Navarrete. The difference this time is that Oscar Valdez is going to know 100% what he's getting, where Navarrete didn't know and probably fell foul to that. Oscar's going to know, but whether he's got the experience and I suppose the will at this stage of his career to combat a young lion like Liam, well, we'll see. And you've got to remember too, Liam is a lot more seasoned since he fought Navarrete as well. He's had a couple of good fights since then. So give him every chance. You almost talked me into it now, Carl. But again, I just want to see the fight. And I hope that is the case. And I hope we get an announcement soon because what's it, only about 8 weeks away. So 8 or 9 weeks. Kyle says Tim collects the WBA and IBF belts. Crawford fights Charlo for the WBC. And then Crawford fights Tim for the Undisputed. Yeah, well, that does make sense. Look, it makes excellent sense if Charlo does obviously agree to fight Crawford. Then what you're saying there makes complete sense. The issue I've got is I don't think Charlo will see him for at least another 8, 9, 10 months, maybe even a year, if at all. Well, actually, I think we'll see him again, but who knows? We might not see him till July, August, September. And no, I just think that'll be too late for Crawford. I think he'll want to fight, as I said before the end of the financial year, which is June 30. So, but if that is the case, it does make perfect sense. I just think that fight with Charlo is not going to happen soon, which makes Crawford and Tim Tszyu just the fight to have. Just makes sense. Carl says Glenn Jennings said today they are looking at all options, including the vacant IBF. Yeah, well, the vacant, can they fight for the vacant IBF if they're already a champion? Maybe they're a little bit different, the IBF. I wasn't quite sure whether they could fight, if they're the WBO champion, they could fight for the vacant belt of another organisation. So at the moment, you've got Mirta Zaliev and Jack Kulke is number 1 and 2. Geez, it's really not really a fight to get you too excited, is it? But for Tim even, he's got Josh Kelly, he's his number 1. But they're talking about, obviously, Erickson Lubin for that next fight. So, yeah, well, my gut feel, Glenn tends to just put a few feelers out there just to get, the wheels turning. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an announcement within the next sort of week to 2 weeks of what's happening. I know, of course, we have to get something soon, but just sometimes Glenn puts out a bit of a teaser before an announcement. So, yeah, all eyes will be on Team Tszyu2's Facebook page, I would think, or social media accounts. But if that is the case, Carl, it does make sense, but I'll just have to see whether the WBO champion is allowed to actually fight for a vacant belt of another organisation. And Kyle agrees. How would that work? Yeah. Peter says, styles make fights. The hardest fight for Crawford at 154 is Fundora. Think about it with that reach. Well, I think anyone with the reach of Fundora is going to be hard, but I think Crawford, I just think he just picks through the height and reach of Fundora, Peter. I actually think that's a pretty easy fight for Crawford. I know styles make fights. I think Tszyu would make mincemeat of Fundora as well. I think he would knock Fundora out in 7-8 rounds, I would think. And I think Crawford would probably do similar. Maybe not knock him out because Crawford's not a massive puncher. Yeah, Fundora's a handful for anyone. But he needs to get back on the, in the winning circles and get back up there in the rankings before he's even considered, I would think. I don't think Crawford, it just doesn't make sense to fight Fundora now until he gets a win or two under his belt, a good win or two under his belt. So Carl says Murtazalia versus Tim for the IBF. Yeah, just clarify for me, Carl, whether Tim as a WBO champion can fight for the vacant IBF belt. Because I don't think that's normally the case. But anyway, prove me wrong. Asbot says, agree, Canelo Cholo is a waste. Canelo just needs to give the fans what they want, and that's Benavidez. Yeah, well, he has to, if he doesn't do it in May, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, it has to be in September. Asbot, it just has to be. If it's not in September, well, I think the backlash will be severe, because who else is he going to fight if it's not Crawford? There's really no one else for Canelo to fight. And I don't want to see him fight Morale yet. Morale's only had 10 fights, whatever. He's got to earn his way as well. I know he's the interim or regular, whatever it is, some sort of WBA champion, but he's got to earn his stripes as well. And really, if Canelo decides to fight, well, not fight Benavidez in May, then it has to be September. It just has to be. Peter says Jai should bring Massey out to spar. Yeah, it's not a bad one. So he's also ranked at the moment too, isn't he? I'm just looking at. So I'm assuming you're talking about Masternak there, Peter. But that would be a good one. Or maybe he's not probably going to bring out any of the other elites like Riapor or these types. Although I did see Riapor is fighting Bill and Smith in a rematch for the WBO belt in March. So that's interesting too. Excuse me. My dinner going down. All right. Kyle says, I know, but if the numbers were right and the talent was there, it seems that Melbourne sell better than any other state. Cambosis has done 50,000 twice. He didn't do 50,000 the second time, Kyle. He only got about 8 to 10,000 the second time. This is the Haney fights I'm assuming you're talking about. Unless he's done it another time. But yeah, so he got 42,000 the first time. And only had about, as I said, I was there, and I reckon there would have been 8, 9, maybe 10,000 there. But only 42 at the, was it Melbourne, Marvel Stadium. But look, it just comes down to, Kyle, it's just the money. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments today, because it's now looks like it's official. Well, it will be announced next week, apparently, that they'll have the press conference. All just comes down to money. Everyone's saying, why would they do it in Perth? End of the day, Perth have just offered more money. So the thing is, what you got to remember, I know everyone talks about the Greek population in Melbourne, and I'm not quite sure what it's like in Sydney. I'm assuming it's pretty big as well. Talking about the Greek population. Now, what you got to remember, in Perth, they're still going to get 15 to 20,000 there, whether they're Greeks or not, whether they're just Aussies. They're going to get 15 to 20,000. And the pay-per-view, no matter where it is going to be massive. They could fight in Tasmania. The pay-per-view is still going to be massive. So I don't think that comes into it. So end of the day, who knows, they might have got an extra $1 million to fight in Perth. Well, it makes sense to take it, doesn't it? Pay-per-view is still going to be the same no matter where they have it. And I doubt they're going to try and go, if it was in Melbourne, to go back to Marvel Stadium. I don't think they'll be confident they can get anywhere near what they got for the Haney fight. So they might think we have to have it at Rod Laver, which again only means 10,000, maybe 15,000. Because I remember with the Cambosis and Haney fight, I'm pretty sure the top tier was not available, and that has 15,000 in it. So that's why I said about 8, 9, 10,000. But so that's probably why I think the Perth is not really much of a drama for everyone. The hardcore fans will still go there. But just reading your comment again there, Kyle. Yeah, well, I mean, Melbourne will be great. It's a fight town, but doesn't mean anything these days, as we see in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not a big boxing country. That's all probably the people flying into Saudi Arabia. They've got more money than they know what to do with. So probably just sticks it up the rest of the world that we are running boxing. But so, yeah, I just think these days the site of where it is just pretty irrelevant because pay-per-view is so big these days. Peter says if Tszyu fights Crawford, make it at Marvel. I don't think that fight would be in Australia, Peter. I would love it to be in Australia. I don't think the money, again, would be here for that fight. Although, who knows? I would think the state government, wherever it is, would need to stump up about 10 mil to get that fight here in Australia. And will they do it? I'm not sure. But if it was in Australia, I reckon they could fill Marvel Stadium, no drama. You've got to remember, Tim hasn't fought in Melbourne yet. He's fought in Victoria. He fought in Bendigo, which I promoted. That was, 2018. That was before he went with No Limit. So, and obviously he only had a dozen fights or something at that stage. So much has happened since. I think we only had about 1,500, by the way. That's all we got to the Bendigo show. I think if he fought at Marvel Stadium, they could easily get to 40 to 45, maybe even 50,000 if he fought Crawford. Tszyu, probably against any of these sort of elite type of super welterweights in the world, 154, Tszyu would probably get 30, 40, 50, or maybe not 50 if it's not Crawford, but, I'm getting up maybe 30 or 40,000 just because it's Tszyu. That's how far he's come. Back then, I don't think probably a lot of people in Melbourne even knew that Costa had a son, to be honest. A lot different now. What's that, Carl? George didn't get 40 first time around, and Rod Laver, it was between 15 and 20. It definitely wasn't 15 to 20, Carl. I was there, and it definitely wasn't 15 to 20,000. It will only hold 15,000 anyway. And as I said, I'm pretty sure the top tier was sectioned off. And I would think tops maybe 10,000. Still not a bad crowd, I will say. 10,000 people to a fight, that's great. But definitely wasn't 15 to 20. And I think it was 42 for the first fight. But anyway, Crawford says Carl is the best switch hitter in the sport, and he didn't switch to orthodox once. Yeah, he didn't need to, did he, Carl, against Spence? Carl, okay, Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia has pissed off everybody. Haney, Romero, etc. is actually called out Paro before. I don't think he called him out, Kyle. I think he just congratulated him on his win, I think. And Garcia is a social media rat. For him, this would be a vacation. Yeah, as I said, Kyle, I'm not sure unless I missed it, I'm not sure he actually called Liam Paro out. I'm pretty sure he said, great performance. Wouldn't mind maybe looking at a fight down the track. It wasn't like, hey, Paro, let's go. I don't think it was anything like that. It was almost a little bit of fishing there, I think. You are right that Garcia was it a social media rat for vacation, but he's still going to want to get paid, Kyle, and that's what it's about. It's all about the money. And I would think he would want $5 million just to come to Australia to fight Liam Paro. And Liam Paro, he's got to get paid as well, and they've got to bring everything here. I'm not quite sure whether the money would be there, but love to be proven wrong. I think if that was the case, it would be could be LA or Vegas or something like that. I don't think, as I said, just gut feel, I don't think Garcia would come to Australia unless it's probably 5 million plus, because you could probably get 5 million in the States and fights at home. So, Carl, Tim versus Bud at Suncorp Stadium. No, keep your hands off it, Carl. If it's in Australia, it comes to Melbourne. You guys had Pacquiao and Horn. You got to have Crawford and Tszyu to us. Well, look, it just makes sense. Although, having said that, Carl, hang on, I'll just stop here, because you are right in some respects. Suncorp Stadium, I was there for Pacquiao and Horn. 51,000, I think it was, and the atmosphere was absolutely electric, and it was so good. I've said on here before, the rugby stadiums or the league stadiums are so much more better than the AFL stadiums because they're so more compact. The Marvel Stadium, being an AFL stadium, is just twice as big, twice as wide. Not great for the aesthetics, if you want to call it that, if it's not full. So it's an interesting one. I know Costa fought at Marvel. It was called Telstra Dome back in 2003. And they got about, I think there was about 30, but just the atmosphere just wasn't great because it was pretty much half full. Because they get 52,000 in the stands, and they probably get another 15,000 on the ground. So you look at maybe 65,000. When you only got sort of 30 odd, the place is half empty. And we faced a little bit with that with Cambosis and Haney. UFC's been similar as well. So unless it's a concert, even concerts are hard because you can barely see the performer. AFL, it's great, of course, and that's what the stadium was made for. AFL and cricket and soccer to some extent as well. So on that respect, I would probably back you with Suncorp Stadium, mate, because the atmosphere was unbelievable for Pacquiao and Horn. Brendan O'Brien, hi Brendan, welcome to the show. The Yanks still think Tszyu's not up there yet. Yep, but Tim will surprise them. Don't worry about that. Bring on Crawford. Thanks, Brendan. I'm with you there, mate. Good call. Carl says, I don't see the PBC sharing the Canelo pie with Golden Boy. Yeah, well, Canelo, this is, who are you talking about here, Carl? I'm assuming so Munguia's with Golden Boy, isn't he? I think he is. Charlo's obviously with PBC. Crawford is he a free agent, I think. Let us know who you're talking about there, mate, but I'm not quite sure who Golden Boy's got apart from Munguia, who they'd want to be sharing the pie with. And yeah, you're right. I doubt I could see Al Heyman sitting down with Oscar De La Hoya. I would think wouldn't be happening. Peter, garbage Victorian Labor government have run out of money to bring any major events to Melbourne. Well, Peter, words to my ears, that is, or music to my ears, that is. I 100% agree with you, mate. And if you don't know too much about Victoria's Labor government, apart from blowing hundreds of millions or billions of dollars on tunnels that haven't been or aren't ready and are blowing so far out of budget, they're probably much doubled in price. So the cost an extra 20 billion or whatever the hell else it is. So that's just the tunnels. But as far as sporting events go, they blew nearly $400 million. It's a $400 million to not have an event. So the Commonwealth Games was supposed to be in Australia. Was it next year or this year? It must have been 2024. Is it this year? Whenever it was supposed to be. I don't really take much notice. $400 million not to have it. So they puffed the chest out and said, yeah, we'll have it. Bring it here. Wherever it was, no one else would say, we'll have it. So they brought it to Victoria and made all the promises to the country areas because it was supposed to be in the regional areas, not the city of Melbourne. It was supposed to be all in Geelong, Bendigo, Ballarat, Gippsland, everything else. And it was 380, and then there was another $20 million to pay legal fees, and I think it was $20 million that might have been to the Commonwealth Games committee for the rooting around. So $400 million just to say no. So they got to the point where it was all set to go, and then they said, yeah, no, we're just going to pull the rug. So sorry to everyone out there. So it cost them nearly $400 million not to have an event. So that is our Labor government in Victoria. One good thing, Peter, that other dipshit Dan Andrews is gone. So hallelujah. But Jacinta Allen, not much better. So, but I'm with you there, mate. They haven't got any money left because it's all been thrown at God knows whatever else. They gave $15 million to the netball team, the Australian netball team, just for political points. That was it. Because the Australian, the Opals are they, didn't want to take Gina Reinhardt's money because of all political reasons. So Dan Andrews said, oh, it's okay. We'll give you $15 million of our money. Victorian taxpayers. Anyway, don't get me on my soapbox. I won't get off. We won't be talking boxing tonight. But good point there, Peter. Are you from Victoria? Let me know. Carl says, Brendan, they have their blinkers on. Deep down, they know. So this is about Crawford beating Tszyu. Peter says, I'm with you. Crawford beats Canelo. Okay, Peter, we're in agreement for the first time tonight. Good stuff. Sam Munro. How are you, Sam? Welcome to the show, mate. What do you got there? Great point. The fact that Tib has been mentioned in the mix is phenomenal. Win, lose, or draw. A loss against Bud won't hurt his career. Tim is a live dog in this fight, though. Yeah, I'm with you, Sam. Good comment there, mate. I 100% agree. This is the thing. This whole Floyd Mayweather mentality about zeros and he's not going to win. It should be about, I think, how whole attitude should be, Tim, go for it. And if you don't win, okay, then you go back to the pack and you get another big fight. It should, not just Tim, but about anyone at that level. Should be encouraging these guys to fight each other, not give a toss about wins and losses and that sort of stuff. We want our guys to win, but let them fight the legacy fights. All the fighters of yesteryear did. And the extra benefit of these days is they get the legacy fights, but they get very, very, very well paid. The guys in yesterday got a fraction of what the guys get this year. I know the downside is that they fight more irregularly now. They only have to fight once every year or 18 months. Back in the day, they'd fight 2, 3, 4 times a year. But you can't have everything, I suppose. But no, good point there, Sam. I agree. Kyle says, this just in. Wow, okay, Lubin out of Tszyu talks. Thank God Tim would crush him. Crawford and Ortiz still in talks with Tszyu's management. I'd be surprised, Kyle, if Ortiz is offered up now. Although you never know. Maybe they're taking a page out of the book I said earlier. You don't know you're good enough until you're in the ring with your opponent. So maybe Ortiz says, you know what, I only had one round at 154, but I think I'm ready to go. Maybe Oscar thinks the same thing. And maybe they think if they can get Tim's belt, they might be in line for Crawford or whoever it might be. So there you go. Let me know where you read that, Kyle. I didn't see that today. I always check all the social media pages before I come on air. I didn't see that, so I must have literally just come in. So thanks for sharing that with us, mate. So who does Tim fight now? Well, for me, it makes even more sense that it's Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford wants a fight. The only thing might be is they might say to Tim, we don't want it till April or May. I reckon Tim would wait. He waited for Charlo. Well, didn't wait for Charlo, but he took the delay. I think if they said, we'll give it to you in April, May, I reckon you would see Tim wait. Because you've got to remember he had 3 fights in 2023 and only fought in, November. So it's not a long time for Tim Tszyu. So who knows? Maybe we're even closer to Tszyu versus Crawford. Be massive. And as I said, Kyle, I'd probably pick that one over Ortiz, although neither one would surprise me. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's one of those guys. Sam says Jai's come a long way since the first fight. Jai to break his jaw in 2 places. Yeah, get a bit of payback there, Sam. Mutsy says, how good is the IBF? Jai gets stripped, then he's mandatory for his own title. Bloody circus. Well, if you're going to have a definition of the boxing circus, Mutsy, that is it. They strip Jai for not fighting Mairis Briedis, who wasn't ready to fight in the first place anyway. So in this day and age where fighters barely fight, Jai says, I want to be active. And they said, well, if you fight against a guy who's not Briedis, who's not ready to fight, but if you don't fight Briedis and wait, then we're going to strip you. And then, of course, they bring him in as a mandatory for that same title. Doesn't make sense. But end of the day, Mutsy, at least he's got that fight or the rematch against Briedis. I think it'll be great. Kyle, if Jai can KO Briedis, who becomes a whole new source of fear for the cruiserweight division. Well, if that's possible, the only thing I will say, Kyle, as I said earlier, the last 2 fights have been easy kills. So I'm really intrigued and excited about seeing the new look Jai against Briedis. Now, Briedis hasn't fought since he last fought Jai. Jai's had the 2 fights. When was it? I think it was in August 2022. I think it was. So nearly 18 months. It's been, was it August? Something like that. But anyway, it's been nearly 18 months for Briedis. Jai's been, even though he was out for that first year, he's had 2 fights in the last few months. So I think he'll be cherry ripe, and I'm really excited to see how this Jai handles Briedis, especially Briedis that's been out for 18 months. So all points on with you. Whoever said it before, that Jai has the ability to stop Briedis. I'm still thinking points, but you never know. If Bill Smith and Richard Riaport fight, either of them are food for Jai. Yeah, I agree, Carl. I think either one of them, or both of those guys, would just be cannon fodder for Jai. I think it would pulverise both of those guys. Kyle, Matchroom card looking to be a repeat of 2022. Paro, McKeon, Nicholson, Huni and Opetaia occupied with the Saudis. Well, the other thing is, Kyle, of course, is that Huni and Opetaia are with Tasman fighters, not with Matchroom, although they have obviously got a good relationship because they obviously work in cahoot. Actually, I take that back. They're with Tasman, but they are with Matchroom as well. Sorry. I was thinking of someone else. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you could maybe quite see that. I would think that if Opetaia fought here in Australia, though, Kyle, I think he would be the main event. Unless Paro fought a Garcia, one of those guys, it would have to be Opetaia, wouldn't it? Especially if he wins against Briedis and have that belt. I would think Jai Opetaia would have to be the main event. I would think Eddie Hearn would want to showcase Jai Opetaia again to the world stage even more as far as being a superstar and have him as the main event, Paro as the co-main. And then, of course, you've got McKean, Honey, Nicholson, although she's got that world title fight coming up possibly as well. Maybe that is for the world title. Who knows? But, yeah, either way, Kyle, what a card it would be. It would be massive. G'day, Andy. How are you, mate? Welcome to the show. We'll get through some comments there. Kyle, again, I would like Rhea Paul to take that title from Bill and Smith. Rhea Paul will leave England for the right cash. Smith won't. Yeah, good point. That's a really good point, Kyle. Opens the door. I don't think Bill and Smith wants anything to do with Jai Opetaia. Where I think Rhea Paul, I know he has pulled out in the past, but if he has got the belt and the money's right, and if it's in Saudi Arabia, you get the feeling that the Saudis are right behind Jai. They want the big fights for him. So they're going to splash the cash. And at the end of the day, these guys are prize fighters, so they're going to make it happen. And I would say to someone like a Rhea Paul, you either fight him or we don't want to hear from you again. So they're a little bit like the UFC almost, aren't they? The Saudis over there. They're saying to people, they're putting up enough money where they're able to say, you're fighting him. And I don't want to hear any negotiations. You're either in or you're out. You fight him or we don't want to know you. So they've got no choice but to fight each other. Some good undercard fights, even with the Joshua and Ngannou fight. To have Zhang and Parker on the undercard, how good is that? To have Opetaia and Briedis on the undercard of Fury and Usyk's great. So I think we're going to see the Saudis what it looks like, great cards, not just great main events. So you will find someone like Rhea Paul, if the Saudis say if he does beat Bill and Smith, of course, we want you to unify the belt against Jai Opetaia. Here's a couple of $1 million for your trouble. He'll be there. Don't worry about that. Andy, what did I miss? Oh, what haven't you missed, mate? We've actually been talking about you since you haven't been here. No, we've been talking mainly about Tszyu possibly fighting Crawford, Jai Opetaia with the Tyson Fury situation, leaving training camp. Whatever else we got there, guys. Of course, Opetaia and Briedis as well coming up. What do we got there? Moloney got an early Christmas gift against Sanchez. Opetaia is fighting a guy who took his jaw home last time. Bud will add Tszyu to his list of 11 straight stoppages. 2024, the end of Aussie boxing. I've got a feeling obviously you're not Australian and you're taking the piss here. You're just in here trolling a little bit there, mate. But I'll answer your question. No problem. As far as Moloney getting an early Christmas gift against Sanchez, well, that is just blatantly wrong. Very, very close fight. Just because Sanchez didn't win a close fight doesn't mean he was robbed or got an early Christmas gift. Did Moloney. It was a close fight and the champion got the nod, as he should. But apart from being the champion, I think he won 7 rounds to 5 anyway, so that's that one. I'll repeat, mate, just because your fighter loses a close fight doesn't mean it was a rip-off or a robbery. Opetaia's fighting a guy who took his jaw home last time. Well, rather than saying that, mate, wouldn't you give credit to Jai Opetaia for beating a guy whose only loss, who was a champion, whose only loss was to the current heavyweight champion? Took his jaw home, mate. Opetaia won a clear-cut decision, even with the broken jaw. And Bud will add Tszyu to his list of 11 straight stoppages. Well, it remains to be seen, doesn't it? We'll back our guy. But if it does happen, it does happen. But I think you still got to give Tszyu all the credit for taking that fight. So, mate, hey, I appreciate you coming on here and trolling a little bit. But I think on all points, especially 2 of those points, you are wrong. Kyle says, you are a dumbass. Well, there you go. Carl says you can do better than that. Come on. Yep, I agree. Fundora was destroying Mendoza until he landed the big shot. This is Sebastian Fundora. Yeah, you are right, Peter. And look, I might be a bit hard on Fundora because up until the Mendoza fight, he was very, very highly regarded. So I just think Mendoza exposed Fundora for, he's got the height and reach and some okay ability. I just don't think he's anywhere near the caliber of the top guys, mate. Tszyu, Charlo, Crawford. I just think if Mendoza can reach Fundora when the heat goes out of the fight, I just think those other elite guys would do just the same. So he is a talent though, but he needs to get a quality win or two under his belt, Peter, for me to sort of take him seriously again. I just don't think he's in calculations at the moment. Cole says, hang on, that's a nice question, that one. Jai will smash everybody in the cruiserweight division. Tim has smashed every American that stepped into his ring. Paro no different. And Sky is one fight away from being crowned a world champion. Well, good point, Kyle. Now, if you want to look at all the Aussies, what's that other guy? I haven't got it in front of me. Is it in yet? Whatever his name was. The death of the end of Aussie boxing in 2024. We'll go through them. Look at you've got there, like you said, Kyle. Jai Opetaia, absolute gun. Tszyu, and he will be world champion again. Tszyu, current world champion. George Kambosos, about to have a stadium fight, could be in line to be, the lightweight champion again. We've got Jason Moloney, of course, is the world champion. We'll probably unify this year. You've got Sam Goodman knocking on the door. Liam Wilson knocking on the door. You said there, Sky Nicholson knocking on the door. There's some really, really good. Who knows? Andrew Moloney might be knocking on the door again this year. Michael Zarafa looks like he'll be fighting for the WBA belt as well. So the end of Aussie boxing in 2024, mate. We're only just getting started. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And as you said there with Paro, he'll probably fight for a world title as well. So, geez, have I missed anyone? There's too many to even count these days. So I think Aussie boxing's doing okay. Massey is English. Okay, sorry, mate. Who am I thinking of there? Is he world rated? He mustn't be because he's not on there at the moment. Give us a bit more information. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Masternak. Sorry. Peter says Tszyu versus Crawford fills Marvel. Yep, wouldn't be surprised with that, mate. Well, could they get 65,000 there? I don't know. They'd at least get 50, I would think, easily. Kyle says Tim's numbers aren't that good when it comes to selling out either Gold Coast or Newcastle. I think didn't he fill Newcastle, Kyle? I know the Gold Coast. Well, that is a good point, by the way. I was at the Tszyu Mendoza fight on the Gold Coast. I reckon it only holds 5,000 or 6,000 people, and it definitely wasn't full. But what you're discounting there, Kyle, is the Melbourne sports crowd, and you look at that with the Kambosos Haney fight, 42,000 people, and with all due respect to George, Tszyu is a lot bigger name than George Kambosos. I know we've got the Greek population there, all that sort of stuff, which might balance it out a little bit more. But the Melbourne sporting crowd, for a one-off event, they get behind everything. And that's why all the big events are in Melbourne, and the one-offs big events seem to be in Melbourne, because they just really support the event. And I've got no doubt Tim would get his 50,000. No problems. It is interesting about Newcastle, though. I wasn't aware. Actually, I have been to... No, sorry. I went to see Nikita fight up there. That was against... the guy from Melbourne. I think Gallen got beat in the main event. Sorry if I'm a little bit behind in the comments here, guys. I'll keep going. No, Garcia called out Paro wanting to fight in Australia. Did he call him out and say he wants to fight in Australia? I think from what I read, I might be wrong. It was probably a couple of weeks ago now. I'm pretty sure he just said, hey, it'd be great to fight, and it could be in Australia, or whatever it might be. But if that is the case, Kyle, then add it to the list. That other guy, I can't remember his name. Add it to the list. Paro Garcia. How big a fight would that be? I was waiting for this one. Ronnie Picken. Welcome to the party, mate. He'll put it modestly. Mate, are you serious? I reckon what you know about boxing could fit on a postage stamp. Well, that's actually pretty watered down for you, Ronnie. I expected a little bit better than that. But you are right, mate. I think he's just taking the piss a little bit. Speaking of the devil, Bud versus Tszyu at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne. It's actually called Marvel Stadium now, mate. It used to be Etihad. I think it was Telstra Dome. No, it was Colonial Stadium, and then Telstra Dome, and then Etihad Stadium, and now it's Marvel Stadium. It's been that way for about 5 years, I think. Predicting a rough year for Aussie boxing. Okay, well, let us know where you're from, mate. Let's have a, Ronnie says, yeah, mate, I'm looking forward to it. The rougher it gets, the better. Us Aussies love it. Yes. You tell him, Ronnie. Carl says, need some aloe vera for that burn. Good stuff, Ron. Peter says, I'm from Mont Albert. Where's that, Peter? What state? Is that Melbourne? Let me Google it. What's it called? Mont Albert. Mount Albert or Mont Albert? Oh, yeah, Mont Albert, Victoria. There you go. is... Okay, I'm just looking at where you are. Sorry, guys, getting off topic here. 12 kilometres from Melbourne. There you go. Population of about 5,000 people. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see where you are. Okay. Sorry, I should be talking boxing here, and I've gone a little bit off topic. All right. Well, always great to have you on the show, Peter. What do we got? Kyle says, I would love to see Opetaia main event the proposed April Matchroom card. The question is, will he be ready after a fight with Briedis? No, I don't think so. If it was another one of those guys he's fought and gets an early stoppage or a bruise-free type of fight, maybe. But, yeah, I don't think April. I think he would probably fight. So if he's fighting Briedis next month, so I would think he'd want 4 or 5 months off. So it might be June or July, I would think, Kyle. And then maybe one more at the end of the year in Saudi. Bill Smith is petrified of Jai. He knows the Ultimate War Machine will come knocking on his door eventually. Yeah, as I said, money talks. Muchie says Zhang versus Parker should be the main event. I sort of agree with you there, Muchie. That's the fight I'm looking forward to. I'm not that stressed about Joshua and Ngannou. I might be jumping the gun here. I actually think Joshua hands Ngannou very easily. I think Ngannou will be sort of exposed for what we all thought Fury would do. Expose him as just a tough, hard MMA fighter. I think that will happen with Joshua. I think he beats Ngannou. I don't think he stops him. Maybe late, but I think he gets a nice, easy decision. Unless AJ gets KO'd. Good point, Kyle. Well, he's got a land one on him. I know he can, but I just think, I don't know. Who knows what happens if AJ's been dropped a couple of times, but I know Ngannou's sort of a big puncher. I know it in UFC he was. I think AJ's good enough fighter. He'll be looking for it. He'll be prepared for it. And you never know. But as I said, I think AJ wins a easy unanimous decision or a late round stoppage. Mutsy says AJ will bash Ngannou. Well, that's putting it mildly. Yep. Like Wilder was supposed to smash Parker. Was he supposed to smash him, Kyle? I suppose to the Wilder fans, he was. I actually picked Parker to win that fight, but yeah, maybe to some people he was expected to smash Parker. I think the real knowledgeable fight fans knew that even though a lot of them would have picked Wilder, that he wouldn't smash Parker. If he was going to beat him, he would have to bring his best, and he didn't. I don't know where he's at. He's been forgotten pretty quickly, hasn't he? Kyle says you're a Collingwood supporter. Mutsy, well, don't hold that against him, Kyle. As they say, they always sneak in with the humans every now and then. And Mutsy, I'm a Carlton supporter, mate, so I'm allowed to say that, okay? All right, Kyle says, lastly on the women's, get on the Viviana Ruiz corridor train. Partner of Ben Sava. Yes, she is. Ranked number 2 in the WBA at flyweight, and definitely one to watch. Yeah, I think... is she the WIBA champion? I can't remember if that was the one that she fought for. But yeah, really good fight. A fighter is Viviana. Good trainer in Ben Sava. So all the best to Viviana Ruiz, who's moved to Australia to be with Ben and doing very, very good things in the female boxing scene. Who should Andrew Moloney fight in May? Good call there, Kyle. Like in the comments there. Let's have a look at the rankings. Whether or not it will be a world-ranked opponent, but why not? Why wouldn't it be a world-ranked opponent? All right, so if he wants to go down the WBO route, which is Tanaka, it would have to be... Well, he's ranked number 4. Above him, he's got Chocolatito Gonzalez, Christian Bakasegua, and Kosei Tanaka. So maybe he would fight one of those guys. If not, I would say it'd be someone in the top 15. They might want to save on the money, so it might be a Filipino. At that weight, they are very, very tough and hard fighters and tough to beat. So maybe that might be someone. But being that Jason's on the card as well, and I doubt they're going to invest a hell of a lot of money, but I think it'll still be someone in the top 15 that they can get relatively close to Australia, whether it be Philippines or Thailand or one of those types of countries. But it'll be someone tough. Andrew wouldn't want anyone other than someone that can fight. Peter Nutt, I watched the Pies train today. Oh, wow, let's hope. Who knows? Maybe it's the Blues and the Pies this year, Peter. Still with Peter, you need to host a fight day with your callers, maybe the Opetaia fight. Well, this is the other thing. I've seen it done with the footy, Peter, where they do a watch along. So maybe we could do that. Where if you haven't seen it on some of the footy channels, I follow, being a Carlton supporter, I follow Blue Abroad. And on that channel, they do the watch along for all Carlton games. Of course, you can't see the game or hear it because you'll get blanked out. But everyone has it on at the same time, and it's a bit of a, you can talk amongst yourselves and give the opinion. It's a hell of a lot of time. I don't know whether I do it for the whole card, Peter, but maybe the main event and the co-main or something like that. But not a bad idea. Yeah, I like it. And just have everyone commenting along. If you think that's a good idea, guys, let me know, and we can do a watch along. A little bit boring though, because all you can see is me on the screen. Obviously, you'll be watching your own screen on the TV. And as I said, it's just a live watch along where it's a discussion. I like it. If you think you want to do that for the Opetaia fight and the Fury Usyk fight, then no problems at all. A lot of you guys want to just watch it in peace, and I get that. But if you want to have a community forum of chatting about it, then let me know, and 100% I'll do it. And if you're a Carlton supporter, watch Blue Abroad, best Carlton YouTube show on the net. Peter says, you think Zhang stops Parker? Yeah, I think so, Peter. I'm sort of with you there. I think Zhang is a little bit different to Wilder. Probably not as big a puncher, but he's a lot more skilled. And he can punch. Don't worry about that. Obviously, he's got Joe Joyce out of there a couple of times. I think we might see a repeat of the Joe Joyce-Joseph Parker fight, I think, Peter. I think Zhang stops him. Kyle says, we like to back the Kiwis, don't we? They are our neighbours and have serious talent. Yeah, we do. I'll be 100% going for Joseph Parker. No problems at all. I just think Zhang, I think he might have. And Parker fought a great fight against Wilder, don't get me wrong there, but I just think Zhang is a different beast. Mutzi, what's that say there? Wilder has 36 minutes to land a right hand. If he doesn't, he loses. Yep. I don't follow AFL, Kyle, but from this day forth, I go for Collingwood. Mutzi, bite your tongue. If you're going to go for an AFL team, make sure it's the Navy Blues. Peter, back to back. Well, we'll see. Great to talk to people that have been in the ring. Thanks, Peter. I'm assuming you're talking to me or someone else out there. Ronnie Pickham. I know Tanaka is the one Andrew wants to fight, and it's a fight I think we can definitely win. Yeah, well, Tanaka's number one with the WBO. Who knows? If is it Basa Segwa? Is that how you pronounce it? Or Chocolatito aren't available? Maybe the two of them could fight for the vacant WBO belt. Not sure, again, whether promoters would want to, or Top Rank would want to fork out sanctioning fees and officials and all that sort of stuff to bring another world title to the card if Jason's on there. But who knows? Maybe they can get a good deal with everything and bring him over. That'd be great. I think you'll see Andrew Moloney this year. I know, that who did he lose to? That was another. Was that Tanaka as well? Nakatani, was it? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here, guys. Nakatani. I think if you talk to Andrew, you can see that as devastating as that was, I think you will see him rebound from it. He's really just got the old eye of the tiger as far as this year goes. It's probably his last run at it. I think if he gets a shot at one of those belts, and it looks like it might be the WBO, that's the route they're taking, I think he beats any of those guys above him. Chocolatito might be a tough one, but who knows where he's at the moment as well. So, so it's an interesting time this year, I think, for Andrew Moloney. Jackie Dilks, how are you, mate? I only want a watch along if you're shadow boxing the fights as well. Yeah, that's what I sort of do. Get him, yeah. But yeah, look, it's an option. As I said, a lot of people just want to watch the fights in peace or with their mates or whatever, but it's a different concept. It works with the footy, and a game of footy goes for, 2.5, 3 hours, so. All right, Kyle says, I like the live chat as well. I'm definitely keen. All right, well, we can always give it a go. If it doesn't work, well, we'll just can it, I suppose. But what I would have to do, so I'll be able to watch it on pay-per-view. I have my laptop. Yeah, we could easily do that. And you guys would just have to comment and do whatever, talk amongst yourselves, and I'll sort of try and... Well, it's not really a blow-by-blow type of thing. It's not like I'll be commentating, but I'll just be commenting and talking with you guys, and we can talk amongst ourselves. All right, we'll do it. Team Batman Boxing, how are you, mate? I think Zhang stops Parker. Yep, I'm with you there, mate. Peter says, will Emma, September, Number 30 turn up this year. 3 finals, 3 goals. Who's MR? September, number 30. Enlighten me there, mate. Sorry. James Brown. I think they're trying to get the Moloney brothers both with belts and then fight each other. No, I can 100% tell you there, James, they will never, ever fight each other. They will. That will never happen. And if Daryl Moloney's on here, their dad, he was here last week. Let us know, Daryl. I think you can concur or put an exclamation mark on that the Moloney boys will never fight each other. Although who knows? If the Saudi says we'll give you $5 million each, well, maybe, who knows? But that's what I think it'd take. Peter says the Saudi fight starts at 2 a.m. I'm in. Is that the whole card, is it? Yeah, well, we might have to... Oh, Kerno. All right, we'll get to that one. Oh, Mr. September. Sorry, I thought you said Emma. That's this is the AFL again here, guys. That's the Coleman medalist. Kicked the most goals in the league. The mighty Charlie Kerno, number 30. I think he'll win it for a 3rd straight year this year. Peter? Yeah, so the Saudi fight card starts at 2. All right, well, I think the best I could do... Well, Jai's not on. He won't be on till probably about 10 or 9 or 10, I would say. Let's just say if it's the prelims, we could probably start at, say, 6. Okay, I'll be up at probably... Best I could probably get up is about 5. I actually had some peanut comment on here. Had a go at me because I didn't get up at 3 o'clock with all you guys last time on the last show. So apologies if you've taken offence that I didn't get up at 3 o'clock to watch the fights. I got up at about 5:30, so I apologise. I did say he needs to get laid. He's commenting about that on my YouTube page. He needs to get laid. And if you're watching out there, good luck with that. All right, but... So we could do that. If last time I think the main event was on at about 10, Peter, even if it's like 9, I reckon if we started at, say, 6, that gets maybe a couple of prelim fights and then Jai and then the main event. I think that's probably not too bad. If you guys think that, but I'm definitely not going to be up at 2 o'clock, Peter. I'm happy with 6, but that's the best I can do. James, I saw an interview where the Moloney said they would. I doubt that's the case there, James. Maybe they were just joking. All right, Ronnie, it's nice in theory, mate, but it won't happen. But as Lynden says, money speaks all languages. Yeah, it would take a lot of money. I will say one thing, though, James, and Ronnie, you'll agree here, because you used to do all the conditioning work for the boys when they were in Melbourne. They've had a few tussles in the gym. I've seen them spar a few times, and Ronnie, you would have seen them spar plenty of times. Let's just say it's very, very heated, and I wouldn't be able to pick a winner. Like most brothers do, especially twin brothers, there was a lot of ego and that going back and forth. Neither one wanted them to back down. A lot of trash talk. It was actually quite entertaining. But Ronnie, as I said, you would have been right in the midst of it. I only saw it a couple of times, but I'm sure you saw it a lot of times. All right, Peter says it can be 5 a.m. I mean, okay, well, if it's got to be 5 o'clock, we can do that. Cole says let's do it at 10. Lynden Jai is all that matters and the main event. Yeah, well, look, I'll be honest, I would probably prefer, to do the co-main, which is Jai, and the main event. That probably makes more sense because, one, by the time the main event comes around, I won't have a voice. And I got a feeling at that time in the morning, we might have about 5 people watching, and it really just sort of defeats the purpose. Where we do it at 8, 9, whatever it might be, whenever Jai comes on, I think we'll have a full board of people. There might be 30, 40, 50 of us in there, and we can all have a good chat. And then, of course, we can watch the fight as we go. We can score the fights as we go. Maybe that's another thing we can do. We can have a running scorecard. I'm not sure if you can do a poll online as you're going, but we can all vote and we can put up the scorecard as we go and see who we think. So I'll say who I think and make a bit of fun of it. Who knows? But sounds good. And Peter, you are right. I didn't actually mention it, mate. Huni is on the Parker card, which is, so that probably rules him out of the Matchroom card. So good call on that one. So, all right, well, that's probably about it for tonight, guys, in this episode. And Ronnie says about the Maloneys, those boys are super competitive, no loss when they were sparring. That's for sure. So, all right, well, let's do that, guys. Obviously, a lot of water to go on the bridge before that happens, but let's see if we can do that for the Usyk and Fury card with Jai Opetaia on the undercard. We'll, bare minimum, do those 2 fights, the main event and the co-main, and we'll see who else is on the card and whether it's worth commenting. And if you guys want to do it, we will do a live watch-along on here while we're all watching the pay-per-view. Again, we can't show the fight or put the volume up or anything like that. It'll be purely and solely all of us just watching at the same time, commenting and scoring the fights as we go and giving our 2 cents worth. So Yeah, so that should be a bit of fun. And Peter, Jason is a better fighter, but Andrew has a big heart. Yeah, I think you could probably make the case for both of them. I must admit, I always thought Andrew was slightly the more, or was the more talented, naturally talented fighter. But I always thought Jason was just a little bit more rounded as far as everything goes. A bit of the whole package goes. Sort of the more complete sort of fighter. But Andrew, more explosive. As I said, more naturally talented. But Jason's just, as I said, the more rounded as a fighter. But anyway, we love them both the same. If they're watching tonight, all the best to the boys. We might even have to get them on here one night for a bit of a Q&A with you guys. See if we can line them up. I'm sure they will do it if they can get out of the gym. They're always in the gym. They never take a day off. So, but we can get them in here and maybe we can do a Q&A, but we'll see. All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys out there. Make sure that you have a look at the weekly roundup that's out every Friday here in Australia. And the last episode we did as well on the talking point was really well received. Probably got a lot more views after the fact than live, but we did where does Mike Tyson rank in the scheme of things. I'm going to try every now and then too to bring in a guest. I would love to have Mike Altamura on because he just knows everything about anything there is with boxing. And I wouldn't even mind if you guys again got a topic for that, let me know, because I was thinking about maybe doing where does Floyd Mayweather rank in the scheme of things, and lots of other different topics. So let me know if you've got an idea for us to debate and discuss on here. And as I said, I might bring Mike on here as well as another voice as well. But it was really well received by the people that saw it. Not massive numbers, but just something to get us going that we can build on. That's live on Thursday night here in Australia. And as I said, if you've got a talking point you would like for me to discuss, then Instagram, the DM, whatever it might be, or comment on this post and I'll see it. And and we'll go from there. Similar, if you listen to this on Spotify after the fact, if you've got a question or a topic or something you would like for us to discuss on here, then by all means, again, just comment or DM me on the Boxing Deep Dive Instagram page. So until then, thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.